This is Don Cholish, Lead Product Manager for FootPrints. Today we're going to review what's new in 12.1.09. First, a legal notice, as some of you may be listening to this before the release comes out. This is simply saying this is for you and your organization only and can't be shared with others. And also, this is our current plan for the future, but plans are subject to change. Here are some of the goals of this release. These probably seem very similar to some of the previous releases we've released. As well, this will probably be a trend continuing forward. So improved user experience, making sure the product is easy to use and easy to configure. New product capabilities, filling the gap from version 11 to version 12, as well as improved quality for everyone. First, we have some enhanced search capabilities. As you can see with the two screenshots at the bottom, these are very simple things that we've added that are going to allow you to do very powerful things and save you a lot of time. First, the ability to see things that are assigned to your team, or the person that's running the search assigned to their team. This way, you could just create a simple search using the @team syntax, and then just create one search for multiple people to use, and it'll show them different results based on what teams they're a member of. This will definitely save you a lot of time by not having to create a separate search for each team. Also, the ability to search on who currently needs to approve something, and probably most importantly, extending the @me from not only the assignees, but also to the approvers. So once again, you can configure one simple search for everyone to use, and when they run that search, it'll show them things that are currently pending their approval, saving you time not having to configure many different searches for different approvals needed by different people. As far as the approvals go, this is going to show them things that they've not yet voted on. So it might still be in an approval state that they have the ability to vote or change their mind later. As long as they've already voted, it's not going to show up anymore. Let's take a quick look in the product. Now in the application, I'm going to focus on change management and some of the change requests. You can see here, I'm actually a member of the manager's team. There are a few tickets here assigned to the manager's team. Some assigned to individuals as a member of that team, some just the team itself, some assigned to me as an individual or others as an individual, etc. We should run a search to search for everything assigned to teams that I'm a member of and kind of get these results for tickets 3, 4, 5, and 20. So if I go to my drop down here, click on Advanced Search, I'm going to skip over filling out some of the things, but I want to look for change requests. I want to add new condition, common assignees, equal to, and if you go to all teams, you'll see this new @team variable that you can use. Let's pick some display fields, some of the most common fields. Whatever they may be. And you can see the results were those 4 change requests that I had mentioned before. Similarly, I could change my criteria. And this time I want to see things that I need to approve. So instead of the assignees, we have this common.approvers option, equal to, and then similar to what we had for assignees, you have the ability to now use the @me variable for this new approvers criteria. And previewing the results, you can see it gives me a list of things that are currently pending my approval. If I then went forward with each of these searches, I could save them and then push them onto people's consoles, so they'll be available when they log in, and they could see things that they need to approve or things that are assigned to their team. And this might replace some of the existing ones you have. Definitely make it a lot easier for creating new searches and managing all of your searches to have them consolidated like this. Next, we have the ability to discard unpublished changes when you're configuring your containers, like your workspaces. As you know, when you make updates to fields, forms, rules, workflow, etc., in order to publish those live, you have to click a publish button, and it'll go through and save and check all the dependencies. And then after you do that, all the changes you made are going to be live. So your users are going to have the ability to then make use of those changes and see the differences. But there's no way to throw out some of those changes if you don't want them all. You have to manually undo them. So with this, it'll help you for those times, let's say, you maybe made a few changes, you didn't publish them yet, and then all of a sudden, urgently, we have to add this new rule or change this rule or add this one new field real quickly. My only option before was to manually undo some of the changes I did before, add the new thing that we need to do and publish. So now you could just discard everything, quickly add the new thing you need to do and publish. Also, if you have a pesky publishing error you can't get around, you don't know why it's there, You could discard everything and then slowly build up and start from scratch and see where exactly this publishing error is, or perhaps if you configure it a second time, you might be able to get around it. Let's take a quick look in the application. This time maybe I'll go into the help desk workspace and have an incident in here. And maybe I want to add a new field to the form. So maybe I want to add a new drop down. I could drag it in here. Create a new field. I quickly gave it a name, put some choices in. We'll save. And then go back to the form. Save again. And go back a few more levels, and you're going to see this Discard Unpublished Changes button is now active. One thing to note, this button won't be active until you've published at least once on the new version. So we actually take a snapshot when you publish, and that's what we're going to revert back to. So if you just upgrade it and you never published on the new version, we have no snapshot to go back to. Also, if there aren't any changes, this isn't going to be active. But if I click on this Discard Unpublished Changes, it gives me a little warning. I complete it, and you can see now Discard Unpublished Changes is no longer active. If I drill in, I should see that field is no longer on my form. So the field is not on my form, and the field itself should also be out of the system. Next, we have a few changes when you're updating existing reports. So I'm sure as a lot of you know that use reports, whenever you click on Apply Changes, it kind of pulls a new set of data from FootPrints and throws it into the reporting tool. If you wanted to use a new save search or add an additional column or remove a column or change what record type we're reporting on, etc., as you can imagine, it's pulling from a different source, so when you click that Apply Changes button, all the things that you had done in the reporting tool itself at the bottom is kind of thrown away. So if you added a bunch of charts and formulas and filters and things along those lines, those were never preserved. Because we're getting a new data source, so it's similar to like creating a new Excel file. The two things are not related at all. But obviously, once you have this information and you spent a lot of time working on it, if you want to do something very simple, like adding a new field that maybe you forgot when you first created it, or there's a new requirement, you don't want to lose everything you did or have to create a new report. So now, the simple act of adding a new field and then clicking Apply Changes isn't going to cause you to lose any of those formulas or charts or filters, etc. Any other change, like removing a field or changing the data source, I want the search to be a new type of record, or I want a different criteria for the search that I'm using, is going to still throw away all those filters, because obviously we're pulling what we consider completely different information. But we're at least going to warn you when we're doing this that we're going to lose everything, so make sure you don't want to do that. Another option would be just to, as it says in the very bottom of the message, if you're looking to just delete a column, in the filter section itself, you could actually remove a column from showing. So it's still going to be in the data source, it just won't show anymore. So if all you're looking to do is remove a column, do that. Also, another option would be to make a copy of this report and then maybe make some changes to it there. Let's once again look in the application. I have a list of existing reports here, so maybe I'll take a look at this one called Active Incidents. As you can see here, I have incident priority, short description, status. Maybe I want to add a chart in here. Page refreshes. I scroll down. And let's say I want to do it by the priority field. And I could collapse that, scroll to the top, save this. Now let's say, okay, I have my chart down here. Oh, I want to add another thing to this, because at the bottom where we have the kind of list of all the columns with all the data in it, there's something else I want to see when I'm looking at this. In our case, maybe we'll say category. I'll add the category, I'll click on Apply Changes. The warning message was shown, you can see the page refreshed, but the chart still shows, as in the past it would have removed everything from this filter section. Now let's say for some reason I want to remove one of these fields, so I'll choose the status. I'll remove it, I'll click on Apply Changes, And you can see now we got our new warning, letting you know you're going to lose all the filters that you have below. And if you want to simply get rid of a field, prevent it from showing, there's another way to do that in the filter section below. So I want to cancel. I don't want to go through with my changes, so it's just going to refresh back to the last state. Scroll below and go into my table options and choose to just maybe hide that status field. A few other things I want to talk about that are part of this release. Time-based rules that change the record color are no longer going to be considered an edit. So no longer are you going to get that message if a time-based rule ran while you're editing it that this record has been updated since you last been editing it, so you can't complete your changes. You have to go back and start over again. So this should be very useful for people that have a lot of rules that change colors, especially for things that become critical, etc., to not disrupt the agents when they're working on it, allow them to continue to work and kind of complete their saves. Next, broadcast messages are now delivered every time the rule runs. So in the past, if a rule ran 4 or 5 different times, you would only get the broadcast message for the first time. So now it's explicitly following exactly like the rule is configured. Every single time it runs, you're going to get that broadcast message. For those using the migration tools from 11 to 12, in the past it was kind of all or nothing. You had to migrate all of your workspaces. Now we're going to give you a little picker, letting you know which ones you want to export from when going from 11 to 12. So if you're doing things in stages and you only want one of their 20 workspaces, you could easily do that. Support for CentOS, Linux 6 and 7. So these always actually worked. We kind of have made them officially support it now, and the installer is not going to complain about them when you try to install on those operating systems. So this is in addition to the Red Hat Linux that we already support for Linux. We're going to be updating the database column for ticket fields or any kind of record fields, things that are contained within containers. For these simple text fields that used to only allow for 256 characters, they're now going to allow for up to 4,000 characters. And you can see they're a different type. So this is going to allow us to be able to store any type of character in the system as opposed to just basic characters. So it's going to account for various different languages, etc. Also, you're going to notice there's going to be extensive information in the release notes about this. The upgrade might take a little bit longer because as part of the upgrade we have to do a conversion, and your database size might increase drastically as well. So make sure to read those notes in the release notes to figure out what to expect and different ways you could kind of change the outcome of some of those things. So next, when the system sends an email to an email address and not necessarily a specific user, so you have the ability to configure rules to say send email to Don Cholish or send email to a signee, and the signee happens to be Don Cholish, for example. We know who that user is, and we use their email address to send the email, but we know kind of what role they have in the system, so we know maybe some fields that they're not allowed to see, we don't put in the email. And then also for the base URL, we know kind of what authentication method they're using, so we could use the different base URLs per authentication method. Now we're extending that. When you send an email, let's say you want to send an email to an email address that's in a field, and it's just an email address, or you explicitly in the rule type in an email address, and that email address is being used by one of the users in the system, we now have code that actually goes and checks to see, all right, is this email that I'm sending to actually being used by a user? Yes, it is. I'm going to then use their role to determine the permissions and also to determine what base URL. So you might be seeing some differences in the content of the email that go out to certain users. And lastly here, we delayed the processing of the email content until after the ticket is saved. So previously, when a ticket was saved, as it's going through, running its rules, etc., if it had to generate one or several emails to different people based on various different rules and various different recipients, we kind of generated the content of all those emails, stored it somewhere, and the next time we connect to the mail server, we'll go and send it out. So at the time of that content being generated, you had to wait, and the ticket wasn't officially saved yet. So in the UI, you saw the please wait kind of for a little bit longer. So this should reduce the amount of time you see that please wait, especially for environments when you're sending a lot of emails upon every update. Okay, thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions or issues, make sure to contact tech support. And always make sure to be involved in our online community to get involved with discussions with myself, partners, other customers, to figure out how they're accomplishing things that you could help each other with, etc. It's really very powerful.